If you're eating, enjoy your meal. I wish you a good day, that everything goes well, and enjoy the video. Get comfortable and pay attention to this story.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the rapid rise, the incredibly chaotic life, and the deeply polarizing legacy of Jahseh Onfroy, better known to the world as Xxxtentacion. This is a story of extreme contrast, you guys. We're talking about undeniable musical genius that resonated with millions, completely intertwined with horrifying personal crimes and severe legal allegations. We're going to look directly at the facts as they are documented and explore exactly how this young artist left such a massive, complicated footprint on modern music history. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll briefly cover 1. Origins and childhood trauma. 2. The SoundCloud phenomenon. 3. Massive success and versatility. 4. Legal issues and violence. 5. Murder in Deerfield Beach. And finally, 6. Posthumous musical legacy. Let's just jump right in. All right, Section 1. Origins and childhood trauma. So we have to start by looking at his turbulent beginnings down in Florida, because this really laid the complex groundwork for his later emotional vulnerability and, frankly, his aggressive outbursts. Born in Plantation back in 1998, his early years were deeply marked by trauma and instability. He was mostly raised by his grandmother due to his mother's personal struggles. And get this, the source material highlights a staggering claim that at just 6 years old, he actually attempted to stab a man who was attacking his mother. By 2008, his father was locked up for 9 years under the RICO Act following a DEA sting. And crucially, by his early teens in 2012, Onfroy was officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder. This timeline gives us a pretty stark look at the psychological landscape of his formative years. Moving on to Section 2, the SoundCloud phenomenon. His youth was completely chaotic. He was expelled from school for fighting, spent time in a juvenile detention center, but that actually pushed him toward a totally unconventional musical path. It was actually in juvie for a gun possession charge that he met fellow artist Ski Mask the Slump God. After getting out, Onfroy kinda shifted his focus away from crime. He literally just bought a blue snowball microphone and started pioneering what we now know as SoundCloud rap. We're talking a raw, mid-2010s trap scene utilizing heavy bass distortion and lo-fi aesthetics that directly challenged traditional rap production. Adopting the moniker Xxxtentacion, and fun fact, tentacion is the Spanish word for temptation, he started uploading his first tracks to SoundCloud around 2013. He slowly built this absolutely rabid underground following. All that chaotic energy and raw emotional output culminated in late 2015 with early tracks like Look at Me, which basically acted as a match in a powder keg for his mainstream career. Which brings us to Section 3, massive success and versatility. Now, what's really fascinating is that he didn't just stick to rap, not at all. His influences were all over the map, from Kurt Cobain and Slipknot to Tupac and The Weeknd. Onfroy blended hip-hop with third-wave emo, heavy metal, and indie rock to create this highly versatile, super vulnerable sound. Literally, he could be screaming over a heavy metal guitar riff on one track, and then singing softly about isolation and anxiety over an acoustic guitar on the next. That musical diversity is a massive part of why he captivated such a wide audience. His music connected deeply with fans battling their own depression and alienation, driving just staggering commercial success. Take a look at this. His debut studio album, 17, drops in 2017, debuts at number 2 on the US Billboard 200, and goes double platinum. Just a year later, his sophomore album, simply titled Question Mark, debuts at number 1 and hits quadruple platinum. So these weren't just underground hits anymore. This was the absolute peak of mainstream commercial music. To put that scale into perspective, just look at this number, 1.3 billion. That is the number of YouTube views his single Sad racked up by November 2021. The track also hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, cementing his status as the highest-selling emo rapper of all time. But right as his career was hitting these historic highs, a much darker parallel narrative was unfolding. That takes us to Section 4, legal issues and violence. The extreme duality of his life here is just glaring, and we have to examine it objectively. On one side, you have highly publicized philanthropic efforts, donating $100,000 to domestic violence prevention programs, delivering instruments and gaming consoles to foster homes. Yet, simultaneously, he was accumulating a deeply disturbing list of severe legal charges. In 2016, he was charged with armed robbery and assault. Later that same year, he faced horrifying criminal charges involving his ex-girlfriend Geneva Ayala, including aggravated battery of a pregnant woman, false imprisonment, and witness tampering. These allegations were deeply troubling, and they were heavily bolstered by a leaked 2016 audio tape published by Pitchfork. In the tape, Onfroy is heard discussing his ex-girlfriend, literally saying, "I already got what I wanted, I already bashed her face, I made her look bad on the internet." In the extended audio, he confessed to acts of domestic violence, talked about his inability to control his anger, and even mentioned an incident where he stabbed multiple people. The prosecution naturally considered this tape a direct confession. While he was awaiting trial and spending time on house arrest, he did publicly acknowledge his terrible past actions. He told his fans, "I was a piece of shit person, but I've been trying my best to change myself." His legal team actually believed he might avoid prison time in favor of probation. Because of this, his legacy started becoming a massive debate. Was he forever defined by his violence, or was his story becoming one of redemption and second chances? Then, everything abruptly stopped. Section 5. Murder in Deerfield Beach. On the afternoon of June 18, 2018, the 20-year-old artist was visiting a motorcycle dealership down in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Minutes later, his vehicle was blocked by an SUV. He was ambushed, robbed, and tragically shot multiple times in the neck, resulting in his death. 4 suspects were eventually arrested. One pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in 2022 to testify against the others. And finally, on April 6, 2023, the remaining 3 defendants were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And the motive for this ambush? The reason for prematurely ending the life of one of music's most polarizing figures? $50,000. The attackers fled the scene with a Louis Vuitton bag containing $50,000 in cash, leaving behind a profoundly complicated legacy. Which leads us to our final section, Section 6, Posthumous Musical Legacy. Despite his death, his footprint on the music industry just kept expanding. The data confirms it. 68 million. That is the total number of certified records sold globally across just the US and the UK since his passing. He's also earned major posthumous industry accolades, including American Music Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards, and 11 Billboard Music Award nominations. His estate really ensured his raw, genre-blending sound remained a permanent fixture in modern music history. They released the chart-topping album Skins in 2018, which went straight to #1. That was followed by Bad Vibes Forever in 2019, hitting the top 5. And in 2022, a comprehensive Hulu documentary titled Look at Me was released alongside an accompanying album, featuring collaborations with massive artists like Kanye West. So we conclude today's explainer with a pretty provocative question for you all. How does history separate the artist from their actions? When you consider his undeniable musical genius and the deep connection he forged with a generation of struggling youth, but then weigh that against the horrifying, documented personal crimes he committed, how do you evaluate his legacy? It's a complex, uncomfortable question, but an absolutely essential one when looking at the life of Xxxtentacion. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today.